folks, Lorraine Smith here again. I'm going to walk us through another Materiality Bite, this time around the theme of deforestation. And I'd like to take a closer look at some of the disclosures around deforestation and what the findings were when I sort of put it all through a materiality lens. I'll go into slideshow mode here to go through a couple slides. Looks like there's somebody in the deck, an anonymous Dumbo octopus. Hope that reader is finding useful information. And meanwhile, let's have a look with a reminder that what I'm looking for here is evidence of a company working in service of life and at least not undermining life as we would like it to be. Lots more information about what that means and what stakeholders have to say. Some of the key findings relate to the business model. That is one of the number one themes around the current business model, degenerating by design. And one of the sub-themes in that is around information that to me suggests the efforts and disclosures, and we'll get to disclosures in a sec, around deforestation seem disingenuous, i.e. they're not really preventing deforestation, and in fact the business model seems predicated on continued deforestation, illegal and legal, and that's an interesting topic in Brazil, where the notion of grilagem, which is around how forest is removed for pasturing of animals, has some unique circumstances. But even if we don't go into the complexity of that and just look at the basic disclosures, there's some real concerns. Off the top, I was sort of surprised and intrigued to see, as you can see by this panel on the top left, it's outlined in red. That suggests it's a direct lift from JBS disclosures, that they were ranked as a company as the lowest at risk of deforestation by the Forest 500 rankings. So when I dug a little deeper into that, and this is linked here, you can go straight to it. This came from their financial statements, but the ranking is linked here. And so this is a little screen grab of JBS's ranking from the year in question. These are 2021 disclosures, but more recently it didn't look much better. Their overall score was 33%. That is a very low score. So I've got to believe that the way this was worded to sound good is true, and I think it is true. I couldn't find a higher ranked Brazilian protein company, but this is a very low ranking. It is not a particularly good story. And the story gets a bit more alarming when we look at parent company, or at least major shareholder company. It's tough to figure out the exact parent, but JBJ Investimentos, who is ranked even lower. There's a few more concerning things. For example, there's other data that goes into more detail. Sorry, let me click into here. The trading data, I didn't put this up front. This is actually in the appendix because it's data from 2017 from a website called Trace that goes into quite a bit of detail with bills of lading, actually looking at who's shipping what where. So although the data is a bit older, I still find it a little concerning that they were finding that both JBS Brazil and JBJ Investimentos are understood from the bills of lading, the actual shipments of product, to be sourcing from areas that represent 25% of the total deforestation exposure related to Brazilian beef. So that's a bit of a concern. It's older data, so I put it in the appendix as kind of something to watch. I couldn't find more recent data on it. When I go back to the current commentary, or at least the most current that I could find, I also find other things that are concerning, such as JBJ Agropecuaria, which is listed as a related party. It's very confusing. That's another story. But if we take a quick look at that company, which is a major producer of beef in Brazil, we get zero information about their ranking. There is literally nothing that I could find. It seems to be essentially privately held. They have an exclusive page to talk about the very important subject of the environment, but there's very little information on that exclusive page, although there's a beautiful picture of an owl. So when I think about the disclosures on deforestation that feel very important to me, I don't get a sense that they're doing anything to ensure their business model is not dependent in some way on forests being removed to raise cattle. What I find even more disturbing, and I'm going to hop into the ESG theme here briefly, is something around the topic of greenwash. There's lots we could say there, and I do say a bit in theme too. The piece of greenwash that I find the most heartbreaking is when we see dialogue around something like the JBS Fund for the Amazon promoting communities and all the wonderful things they're doing to preserve forests, and it's kind of the opposite of how JBS runs its business. That for me is a real concern. There's a number of other things you can dig into here if you like. The table of contents should walk you through. If you're trying to understand more about this document and what's going on here, you can find out lots on slide 8. I explain what goes on here, who put it together, who I am. You can leave feedback in the guest book, which I would dearly love to receive, including critique, comments, tips, and ideas. Speaking of tips, my tip jar is here. Thank you for any support, perspective, feedback. Really appreciate you stopping by.